So I get this question asked a lot. What martial art would be the best for a prison fight? Wrestling, Muay Thai, kickboxing, regular boxing? The answer is the art of violence. It's a different world on the inside. You can never just trust a respectful one-on-one. It's so weird to say it, but in prison, one of the most respectful things you can do is give someone a fair one-on-one. And that's very rare because if somebody loses, they'll keep fighting you and fighting you and fighting you. I've seen dudes get water breaks and keep fighting until someone just says, bro, I'm done. And it doesn't end there. If the dude still feels like you embarrassed him, he's gonna try to cut your throat in your sleep. Then you have gang politics, organization politics, where they can't afford to lose a fight. It's a stab only situation. If you cross them for money, you're a chomo, whatever it is, whatever they got going on, they can't afford to just line it up and do a one-on-one. It's mandatory. You want to be a part of this organization? Well, then you go and stab that dude. Oh, we can't get to him? Is he friends with him? It's a very vicious, dirty game. Then you have what was going on that ultimately, allegedly, cost Ricky Martin his life. They were doing a fight club all up and down the state of Florida. And a lot of it was going on in confinement. They'd lock us in there with somebody that they knew would fight us, an enemy we had problems with, or just people that they paid or they just knew that it would happen. In so many words, they made it happen. And you're in there, and one dude's on the wall with his back on the wall. Another dude's on the door with his back on the door. And y'all meet in the middle of a concrete tomb where there's just metal bunks, metal toilets, and you guys are fighting, hopefully for 15 minutes if the officers come back and check on y'all. And that means one slip, football kick to the head, slamming somebody's face on the concrete over and over, dudes trying to bite your face off. Of course you want to have the wrestling and the hands and the knees and the elbows, but you have to have that heart. You have to be willing to go to a place that you never knew existed in your mind. And I'm not being dramatic. You look what happened to a guy like Ricky Martin. You look what happened to my friend Spawn. Both different but similar situations. Ricky Martin allegedly had told on what was going on with the fight clubs in the state of Florida. They put him in the cell with a notorious killer, rapist, maniac. Well, who knows if that was justified or not, but you put a 6'4" psychopath killer with a 5'8", 130-pound dude that is more confused than a billy goat on AstroTurf. And the result is he gets beat and raped to death, and the dude who already had a life sentence goes and says, yeah, that's what I did, and took the life of a dude that had about 3 months left on a 3-year sentence. When you see shit like that, you realize there is no fair one. There is no, all right, I'm going to give that respect, or no. When you see something like that, it changes who you are as a human being. When you know that that's going on in basically the city you live in, Department of Corrections, that changes your entire mind frame. Like my friend Spawn, he got sexually assaulted by an inmate, a notorious booty bandit. And maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's an accident, but somehow he gets put in the same unit as Spawn. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why didn't Spawn just fight him? Or he only had a couple years left. It wasn't worth the 27 years. But Ricky Martin can't say that. He got put in a position where he wasn't ready for that. He was on the defense, where Spawn was on the offense. Imagine seeing something like that, and somebody tries you, very similar, and you say, well, I go home soon, I'll be all right. It's impossible to think like that. Spawn gutted him in front of the whole chow hall, in front of the whole compound, because he couldn't afford to lose that fight. He couldn't afford to show somebody that sexually assaulted him that he respects him enough to give him a fair one. It's a vicious cycle in there, and it cost Spawn from going home in about 2 years to 27 years. But would you rather go home with some health problems, mental health problems, your dignity, your honor? And I'm not saying that every victim loses that, but that's what they feel inside. They feel ashamed. They feel hurt. They feel less of a person. It's just reality. That's why a lot of people who take their life, they link with a lot of traumas from their childhood abuse. But Spawn wasn't going for it. You got him. You swiped him. Swiper stopped swiping. Dude tried him. And, he kind of didn't know what to do right at that moment. And he figured it out real quick. That's the art of violence. There is this thing that you become in prison where, unfortunately, you become a monster to fight a monster. Or look at the chomos, the predators, right? We will go after them, all of us. There is no hesitation with that. That's just part of doing time. You hurt a child, and 1 in 4 inmates have been sexually assaulted throughout their life as children or whatever. So a lot of them know they're gonna get out and do it again. Or you see a dude that did the worst to kids and he gets to go home before you, around your family. Fuck that. Whether it's a hit, whether it's just anger, whether you just feel you're doing the right thing, or you're just following protocol of your organization, or just as a man. Because you cannot coexist with anybody who hurts women and children, rapists, pedophiles. They cannot walk near you. It's automatic disqualification. They are out of bounds. And you can't afford to go in there and shoot a one-on-one with them and be tussling around. No, you got to go in there and just give pure violence. There is no losing. It's completely break them. Make them feel as vulnerable as they made those children feel. Make them feel as scared, just a little bit, of what those children felt, without any chance of them having any upper hand. I've made mistakes where I went in the cell thinking I'd get a one-on-one, ended up getting jumped, hit with locks, orbital bone broken, thumb dislocated, broken, staph infection on the bone, and the bone sticking out of my hand. I told myself I would never be a victim again, seeing my bone sticking out of my thumb. And I realized that you just immediately have to get off first. And you keep hitting them until there's no more movement, or until some officer pulls you off or you're pepper sprayed. And even then, the officers will be the first ones to kill you, beat you half to death. So you have to be mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally disciplined. You have to go insane to remain sane. You have to accept that you will never be able to understand how you're able to go to this dark place in your mind. And I'm not talking about digging deep into a sporting event. I'm talking about knowing that you have to risk your entire life for a decision that you made in your early 20s, a dumbass decision to sell drugs, or a fight. And now you're in a prison where the COs have basically put you in a situation where you might have to kill somebody, beat them half to death, or you can get killed or beat half to death, or even raped, or whatever the fuck might happen. So you have to be calculated and on the offense at all times. You have to go platinum wherever it happens. That's a saying in prison, like everybody's going to see this, like a platinum record. They're all going to hear about it. They're all going to see it. And then you have people that aren't fighters. And you had like Inky, like he's one of the scariest people you can imagine, because he is in fear, yet he's a tattoo artist. So these people are over here extorting him, thinking they're getting off over on him. Meanwhile, he's injecting them all with the Black Widow ink. Crazy, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't have the intelligence in prison. They have the tenacity, the anger, but you have to have it all if you want to truly, truly be elite as a man. Because what good is it to be tough? They're going to put you with a bunch of other tough inmates that are hard to manage, that are going to basically extend your stay. The mind, the calculation. Of course, you got to be in shape, hit those burpees, have that cardio, your strength. But the mind is where it's at. You just cannot be broken. And you have to accept that the things that you are going to accept, the things that you are going to do, you never thought you would ever accept it or be able to do that. At least for me, coming from, a middle-class suburban world, I didn't think I'd have a knife in my hand ready to throw my entire life away because a dude took a soup from me. Stay out, stay free. Us.